The Gulf Coast Growth Show is sponsored by Chevron Pasadena Refinery and is an extension of the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region, where our mission is to market and grow a vibrant regional economy. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm your host, Jason Lee, and with my co-host, Zeke Smith.
So, Jason,
glad to have you today. And we are with the man, the myth, the legend, Greg Miller. And I say that because he's just has had a huge impact since I've been with this organization and running this podcast for now, 5 years, 6 years. And ever since I've been here, you've been here.
Thanks,
and making an impact. So we're so glad to have you today, Greg. And for our audience, I know you're the major market executive, sales executive for Paycor here in this region.
Yes, sir.
And we'll jump into what they do here in a bit, but would love to just fill our audience in kind of on your background, who you are, what makes you tick. Tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Okay, well, I've been with the Economic Alliance for probably, I think I joined in 2013. I was with this little regional publication called Change Magazine. A man named Thomas Brinsko saw me and says, we need to have some coffee. And then I joined the Big Alliance and was with them for 7 years. Then I took a little detour into the tax consulting game. And of course, if you look at LinkedIn, I'm a big LinkedIn guy. And I was recruited by Paycor to come on board with them almost a year ago. So that's how I kind of got here. But all along the way, as I changed my shirts, I still stayed with the Economic Alliance and implored my bosses and leaders that this is a vital part of our business, whatever it is, because it just flourishes with economic opportunity. So Fantastic. It's been a common thread of all my career.
Right. And one of the big things that we try to champion in this organization, and we always talk about, is members doing business with members.
True.
Creating those opportunities, and then really how you can, if you engage, right? If you engage and become part of the community, then you can also see the fruits of your membership. Unlike a lot of times people will join organizations, they pay, they get their sign up, and then you never see them. Right?
Correct.
So we love the fact. And if there's one thing that you don't have a problem doing, is being seen.
Right. Yeah. Well, like anything in life, what you put in is what you get out. So if you put effort in, the output will be there. And so it's rewarded me over and over again, not only just with, economic or, monetary gain, but with relationships and meaningful, conversations and people. This is the most valuable resource we all have. And the opportunity to keep meeting amazing people in this region has been fantastic for me.
Awesome.
Great. So with Paycor, let's talk about it.
Sure.
Obviously, HR, speaking my language here, Greg, as we were talking off camera here, but talk to us about any big news, big events, milestones coming up with Paycor you want to share with the audience.
Sure. Paycor is a national company. We're publicly traded on the NASDAQ. The stock symbol is PYCR. And we went public in, I believe it was the summer of 21. And there was a lot of economic support that went into this. And so we wanted to build up our tier one markets. And one of the tier one markets, of course, is Houston. Sure. And so they put a lot of money into the product, hiring salespeople like me that were going to drive the business. And then there's a lot of marketing dollars. And so we're associated with a lot of professional sports teams and minor league sports teams. And we're also the official sponsor of the Pac-12 conference.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of presence in that. So I thought, well, you know what, why not swing for the fence and talk to the Houston sports teams? And so you want to kind of know what we did as of recently? Yeah. Okay. So what happened was back in the fall, Paycor got the naming rights to the Cincinnati Bengals Stadium. We had been their provider, their HR provider for years, but we kept seeing the return on investment. And what was Paul Brown Stadium is now Paycor Stadium, and that was named. And so for this NFL season, if you watched, the NFL or the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow playing there from LSU, they play in Paycor Stadium. Well, when that was announced, that ignited a lot of interest. And so one of the people that got interest was our endearing CEO of the Economic Alliance, Chad Burke, who has a relationship. He was Texas A&M buddies or in the core with Doug Hall, who is the general manager of the Toyota Center. He goes, "Would you like a meeting with Doug Hall?" I said, "Absolutely." So that was the catalyst for me to get in and meet the president of the Rockets and all their HR team and their financial people. And so they brought their people in, I brought our people in, and about 6 months later in February, we closed the deal on a 5-year relationship. And we are now, Paycor is going to be the official human capital management provider of the Houston Rockets. Right?
That's a mouthful. There you go. Yeah.
HCM is the shorter term,
Sure. Yeah.
but human capital management is a fancy term for people operations or HR. So anytime we have the Rockets, by the way, I don't know if you know this, they're we think of them as like 15 people and some coaches or 15 players, right? But they're 600 people strong, because you think about the people in the stadium and the parking attendants and all that. There's a big army that has to put on this for the show, for entertainment production. And they also do, when they're not doing basketball games, they have concerts and things like that. So anyway, next season you'll see the Paycor presence in the stadium. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and as a follow-up, if you don't mind, Jason, you said human capital management, people operations. So around that, is there any big news? Obviously, workforce development is a pillar of this organization, and workforce shortage is a huge issue in our region.
Right.
Trying to find the people that, I think, use Chad's terms, make goods and move goods. We're trying to find people that do both.
Right.
So how's Paycor affecting that? What are you guys doing? What's new? What kind of innovation is out there that you're offering your customers and potential clients?
Great question. Thank you for asking. So if you just to get an idea of what is HCM software, a lot of people think of Paycor as like a payroll company. Yes, that's true. We started as a payroll company. We started in 1990 with Bob Coughlin, kind of like Microsoft. Started out of his garage and it grew. But if you think about the people, if we're gonna hire Jason, right? Yeah. We got to recruit him, then we got to onboard him, we got to train him. If we're going to give him some a car, a laptop, and some assets or some PPE, we got to track all these things.
Sure.
And then we might want to give him some training and some other things, and then it's the entire employee life cycle from pre-hire to retire is what's managed in this HR software. And so one of the big things, like you said, is recruiting and the war on talent and finding people. So what Paycor decided to do, and our CEO, his name is Raul Villar, he orchestrated a deal with a company called Talinia. And what it is, and so we branded as Smart Sourcing. So we acquired this company. So artificial intelligence is the big thing right now in HR recruiting. So have y'all have like Spotify or Pandora? Are you familiar? Yep. So let's say you have a playlist and you start playing some songs. You play the Eagles and Fleetwood Mac, maybe some Steely Dan. Well, the software starts recognizing your
patterns.
Patterns.
Right.
And so what the software is going to do on the recruiting side, instead of hoping that somebody comes to your website or pushing out offers, it's just going to start saying, well, you like Jason, you might like Zeke, or you might like, Chad Burke because of the same skill set. So you're going to get talent pushed towards you, which helps you get more exposure to more. And this software scours 1.5 billion, people out there on all these websites.
Online presence, really?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it's scouring everything to find the talent that best fits what you're looking for.
Yeah. As a retired frat guys, it's changing rush to recruitment, right?
Yeah.
You're actually going out and seeking folks instead of just kind of post and pray and wait for folks to show up to you. Yeah.
So it pushes them toward you. So this is going to be a common thing in HR software, but Paycor was the first one to come to the market with it.
Awesome.
So it's cutting edge thing. It's a big thing right now in recruiting software.
So Greg, I know everybody listening that's probably in sales is probably salivating, thinking, okay, if I just join the Economic Alliance, I can get the Rockets as a client too. Right. But you mentioned earlier, you've been here since 2013, and I personally have experienced the fruits of this organization. But maybe you can just tell the story about what this organization really does and how it's impacted you, and really how. Because the Rockets didn't just happen overnight. That was kind of an earned introduction over time. So maybe you could share a little bit about your journey and why you believe it got you in front of an organization like that through this organization.
Right. So, we all can join different networking or groups, but usually they're pretty siloed. It's like, okay, this is economic group, or this is a healthcare group. This thing takes on all of the all the businesses and all the facets, the politicians, the educators, mom and pop, oil and gas, you name it, marine, and all those support companies. And so it is a driver. And so if you want to plug in and meet with people of all aspects of business, which obviously HR, software, everybody's got to get paid. So for me, this is a good broad canvas for me to work and be a part of and interact with. So that's why it's been such a big driver to me, is because it just brings in all of the facets. It's not just siloed for one particular area or vertical, as you might say.
We've been celebrating the diversity of the organization almost every episode, right? Just there's so much value in that diversity of industry and backgrounds. So case in point, right?
Yeah, and like I said earlier in the show, whatever shirt I was wearing, the Economic Alliance was a fit because it has all this diversity, like you said, Zeke. That's a very good point.
Probably one of the biggest things about our region is the diversity and the fact that we serve so many different layers in this organization, right? We're serving the very top of the food chain all the way down to the little t-shirt print company here on Center Street, right? And
absolutely.
And everybody in between, which I absolutely love.
Me too.
And you're a community guy, right? I mean, that's what I love about you so much, is that this isn't just, for you, it's not just, okay, I got to go check into the region and then check out and go hang out on my yacht somewhere. It's I come down, but maybe you have a yacht because we're pretty close to the water. But do you have a yacht?
No, sir.
Okay.
Wow. That's a very personal question.
Hey, it's Greg. We've been friends for a while.
Because you do, I don't need one.
That's
okay.
right. That's the investment, right?
I don't have a yacht, but the best part about this region is there's so many guys that do have yachts, so you can always just hop on one of theirs. And so,
learning more about that.
It's a perk, man. It's a perk.
Yeah, yes. So. Still new here.
Yeah, you've been here long enough. Pretty soon you'll be out on plenty of yachts. Trust me.
Sounds great. But a live podcast from the yacht.
So let's talk a little bit about your organization or your own personal involvement when it comes to charities and the things that you're doing here in the community.
Well, I really like to give back any way I can. One of the ways that I've even when we all, our careers go through peaks and valleys. And sometimes when I feel like, I got a little extra time or I need to, recenter myself, I rely heavily on my church. I go to League City United Methodist Church. I don't know if it's in the economic region, but that's, where I hang my hat. One of our big ministries is called the Food Truck. And so what the food truck does, it feeds the less fortunate people of Galveston County. And the problem with feeding people is not that there's not of food out there. There's plenty of food. The problem is the distribution. We got to have hands that can get it from here to there. So our church for years now has been about every other Friday. We as a church, we come out and we volunteer. And the Galveston County Food Bank provides the food, and then our members hand it out to people. Even during COVID, in the heat, 98 degrees or rain, we're wearing masks, whatever we got to do to make sure that those people are fed, because they rely heavily on us to feed them and take care of their families. And, we don't always stay at the bottom, but sometimes we need a little helping hand that kind of boosts us through the rough patches, and then we can find a job, or, we can get ourselves righted. So these people come to us for help. So that's one way I personally have been able to give back physically, monetarily, I donate some money here and there, right. But physically, that's why, and it really feels good to just physically be out working and serving the Lord.
You're kind of one of those physical, get out there and get it done kind of guys. And I think that's one of the things I like most about you. Is you're not sitting behind a desk hoping to make some sales. I mean, you're a contact guy. That's kind of in your blood and in your nature. So.
Yeah, I like to network. I serve on the business development committee of this organization, and our charge is to put out 4 once a quarter procurement breakfast or some kind of networking event for the Economic Alliance members to congregate and maybe bring prospects or clients, see engaging speakers and panels. And this organization is very good about promoting that and getting that done. And so I really I've been on that committee for, I don't know, over a decade now.
Oh, wow.
And so, it started, I remember Steve Cody with Brady, Holland, and Chapman. Right. He was the first guy that was our chairman. And I served as the chairman during COVID 2020. So it was hard to virtually chair that because we wanted to get out and network.
Right.
But now we have a great chairman in Dave Tolson, and totally support him. But we meet first Wednesday of every month, and we put on these events. Patrick Jankowski was our most recent speaker, and that was at the San Jac Petroleum College. Yeah. And then we're going to have another one. I think it's on May 11th. Procurement breakfast. Right? Yes, sir. And I'll be there. And my old boss, Jeremy Osterberger, will be the panel moderator. Jeremy's taught me so much about sales and so much about the downstream industry. He's been a wealth of knowledge and one of the greatest mentors I've had in my career.
Yep. And one of the best things about, again, this organization is that the collaboration between organizations like BIC, it's almost like they're all working in concert together. And Jeremy's been a huge contributor, not only to the show, but even to helping us get our platform out there. And then also as well as Thomas. So great guys. And again, you were a big piece of that. So we want to thank you for that.
So yeah, I was one of their top sales guys. I didn't start out as their top sales guy, but through Jeremy's tutelage and Thomas's tutelage, I was able to build myself up, and they helped me grow. And I still, a lot of times when you leave a company, you just like, that's it, I'm done. Well, I still engage them. I go to their crawfish boils. I try to kick them some leads and engage them somehow. And I still, many of their members and people that I knew, I still stay in very close contact with. We make phone calls throughout the week. How you doing? What's going on? What are you hearing out there? And so I still engage BIC very much for not even being an employee there anymore.
Fantastic. That's wonderful.
I mean, what do you know? Members doing business with members.
Yep, absolutely.
Greg, you shared a few stories of success, Rockets, sales guy with BIC. Share with our audience and Jason and I specifically on what do you think led to that success? Obviously, a successful sales guy in your career and professional in this industry, in this market. What are some contributing factors to that in your opinion?
Personally, I think perseverance is one of the most qualities, virtues, whatever, that I think I would put a label on myself. Now, you always see yourself differently than others see you.
Sure.
But I feel like, remember the old movie Glenn Glary, Glenn Ross, ABC, Always Be Closing? I want either a yes or a no. So if I'm going to call Apache or whoever or a company out there, I'm going to keep working it until they tell me, no, Greg, we don't want it anymore. So I think that a lot of times we, as salespeople, we call and then we don't get any feedback or we get frustrated and we stop, right? It's like, keep chugging, and until you get the answer. And a lot of times people say yes after a while. So, because if you care about them, then they're going to care about you. So that's.
Well, as a 5'6" little skinny guy who weighed about $117 in high school, the only way that I got girls was through that same philosophy.
Yeah.
I just kept bugging them.
This is now the second short joke you've made on this show.
Yeah,
I'm really impressed with your.
Sometimes you have to self-do that.
I guess. So. Yeah. No,
but I think that would be one thing that I would say early on in our relationship that I gleaned some wisdom from you was watching you do that. Because I remember if you met me at an event and you wanted an introduction or involved to somebody, you would hound me until we got that number. And I thought, man, if he's willing to pursue me that much to get that guy's contact or get an introduction, I can only envision what he did. And to be very candid, I stole a page from your book. So
awesome. Conversely, so that's taking, right? Then there's giving. Giving is, you're talking to somebody and you're like, they go, we need, a certain service or product. And bells and the alarms go off. You're like, well, you need to talk to so and so and so and so. And so giving leads to other people I think in sales, reciprocity is very much important. Mm-hmm. If you get labeled or tagged as only as a taker, then people are going to back off like this guy's always just looking to take. But I think it's important to give back too. So Paycor has we rely on our brokers, either whether doing benefits or property and casualty or 401k or wealth management or whatever that surrounds. So I built this ecosystem of brokers who I try to, if I can't give them a lead, at least I can say, hey, do you want to go to the Economic Alliance networking event? We can walk around together and shake hands and meet people. I can introduce you to folks, right? So that's giving, right? BIC taught me that majorly because BIC was all about like, how do we give people introductions, right? The people that were trying to get on the BIC, working at the BIC Alliance or advertising like Apache would advertise with BIC. Well, if you don't have an appointment at the guard shack, you're not getting in. So the idea was the BIC magazine was going to go past the guard shack and get the attention of people. But if you have a crawfish boil, then you invite the people from the plant and then match them up with the people. And so I was like, okay, this is important to always match people up, and people love introductions.
Oh, yeah.
Love introductions. It's hard to give an introduction, but people want them. Everybody wants to walk in a room and like, oh, hey, I want you to meet so-and-so. And I think that is important, is to connect people and be a connector and a bridge builder.
So you said the word connector. I think it's the most underappreciated, underrepresented characteristic of successful business people is connector.
Absolutely.
Jason has done that for me.
Massive connector.
And he learned from you, and Chad Burke is the grand poobah of all connectors, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think, Jason, in the beginning of your career, you were actually told that. So you talked to
Chad
Chad Burke. Chad knows everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great characteristic to pass on to folks and say, if you can be a connector, things will fall in your lap, right?
Right.
So,
And to connect, you have to show up. We all know about
presence. That's
the 80%
right.
of success
That's
is showing up.
up.
So when you go to these network events, you show up, right? And when you show up, and then of course, you can extend your showing up by taking a picture, putting it on LinkedIn. I was here, I had a great time.
Sure.
Giving, everybody that you meet, you're talking to a little bit of a commercial, a little bit of promotion. That's giving back again, right? And when you give, hopefully,
You receive.
the reciprocity rule kicks in.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think as we get ready to wrap up the show, that's a great way to kind of exit, because I think what you've done today is really we've really hit not only the organization as a platform, but then really how it plays a role, and then how you can play a role inside of it. So, great example. Organization led you to a huge opportunity in your business.
Sure.
But that huge opportunity was earned by the trust that you gained, right? Chad was comfortable putting you out in front of that organization, not just because you're Paycor, but because you're Greg.
Yeah.
Right? He's already established trust. You planted that seed, and it was earned over time and getting actively involved. And so as we get ready to exit the show today, Greg, first of all, I want to thank you for being a guest.
Yes, buddy.
And I want to thank Zeke, as always, for the great insight. But, I want to remind our audience, if you're going to get plugged in, plug in, right? You don't just stroke the check. Don't just show up every once in a while, but find an organization. There's multiple committees inside this organization that you can serve on. If you want to get involved with politics, they have that. You want to get involved with the community, they have that. And so there's ways that you can get connected, but you got to serve and you got to make it a part of what you do. And don't expect to see business overnight. That's the other thing too. You can't just come in in your first year. So you might have somebody stroking a check at your organization who's saying, "Where's the sales?"
Right.
But if you keep the pipeline full, if you do what Greg does with lots of pictures on LinkedIn, lots of activity, lots of showing what you're doing, it will come out and it will pay itself off. And that's probably the best thing about this region, is they are here to serve, right? And so to our audience, I want to thank you for everything. And as always, we want to continue to encourage you to a great way you can pay this forward is you can put it in somebody else's hand, put it in their inbox, communicate to them and tell them the story. If you're not plugged into the Economic Alliance, you want to, you've heard some success stories today, but you can reach Greg Miller on LinkedIn. You can reach Zeke on LinkedIn. You can reach me on LinkedIn. We'd love to tell you all about it. And then when it comes to the show, we know a lot of people like to tune into the audience, probably because Zeke is such a great, the video, because Zeke is such a great dresser.
Yeah.
With his flowers. We love them. And on the other hand, a lot of people forget that you can tune in on Spotify. Some of the great things like Spotify, any of your favorite platforms, search for the Gulf Coast Growth Show. So I know a lot of people like to do it. I'm a podcaster in the car, so I do it between wherever I'm driving. So if you can't log on to YouTube and search for the video, you can just find us where you listen to the rest of your favorite podcasts.
We encourage you not to watch us while you're driving. That's
no matter how much you like Zeke's flowers, do not do that.
And Jason's face. Yes, that's correct.
So
that's right.
We would also say go to the Houston Economic Alliance Port Region website. Right in there under media, you can actually go down there and you can subscribe to all of our channels. And again, we look forward to seeing you guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to go to the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region website and subscribe to our channels. And let's pay it forward by sharing the good news of what's happening in our region by passing this episode to somebody you know.